What is going on, guys? Today we are working back on the F-150. We have got an ABS light we need to figure out. First thing, let's get our scan tool hooked up. Of course, you gotta have your key on anytime you're running codes. Let's go check it out. So here we can see we've got our ABS light on. Okay, details we've got. Of course, this is a 2003 F-150. It is a four-wheel drive. It's got the 5.4 engine. Now the four-wheel drive is going to make a difference for some of the specs we are going to check. But let's go ahead and go to ABS. So, looks like we're getting a C1145, which is right front wheel speed sensor input. So, we need to check our sensor to see if it's maybe a bad wheel speed sensor, or if it's actually wiring or an ABS module or something like that. So let's get into that. I'm just gonna come back in the truck, turn my key back to the off position for these next steps. Gonna get the front end up off the ground so I can get the tire off. Now, once again, this was the front right side. So I'm gonna pull my tire off over here just so I can inspect everything, make sure there's nothing out of sorts. Now that we've got the wheel off, this is our ABS sensor, runs up and is plugged in back behind the shield. This wiring harness is actually supposed to be attached to these retainers. This one is actually not, it's already come off. So I'm just gonna reach in behind here, see if we can get it unplugged. Now we've got the sensor side here, the vehicle side there. So the sensor actually has just 2 pins. So we are going to check the resistance of this wheel speed sensor to see if it's bad. Got our meter, turn that over to check the resistance. I've actually clipped a wire to one of my pins to my other lead just to make this a little easier to do it one-handed. Now we're going to come in here and touch that other pin, see what our resistance is. So I'm not getting anything. It's showing out of limits still, even when I jumper across the 2 pins. So that makes me think that it's probably a sensor that's bad, not wiring or ABS module or anything. But we can double check by checking the other side and see if it's within spec. Here we are on the other side. This is that retaining clip I was talking about. It poked through here. I popped it off so I can have access to my sensor. I'll go ahead and get it unplugged. We're gonna do the same thing for this sensor. So there you can see we're about 400. That's within spec. Now on the spec, it is different for a 4-wheel drive versus a 2-wheel drive. So make sure you know what the spec for the vehicle you're working on is. I'm gonna go ahead and put this side back together and we will head back on over and work on the other side. So we are pretty sure that it's this sensor that's bad, but I always like to double check everything. So I wanna go ahead and check my 2 pins coming from the vehicle. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn my key to the on position and I should see 5 volts across these 2 pins. That'll tell me everything on that side of the system is good before I go spend the money on the sensor. So what I've done is I've got 2 little bitty nails that I pushed down in there so I have somewhere to touch my leads to on my multimeter. You just want to make sure you don't short these out. You'll blow a fuse, you can cause other damage if you do that. So let's go ahead and make sure we got our 5 volt reference here. So right there, if I can get a good connection, right there you see our 5 volts. So that tells me that side of the system's good. Now what I'm gonna do, we'll go ahead and pull these brakes off of here, pull this rotor out of the way, see if we can get access to get that sensor out. So now I've got the brakes off, but it looks like I'm also gonna have to take this shield off to get access down into that sensor. I broke all 3 of these loose by hand just because there's a good chance this shield's never been off. I wanted to make sure I wasn't gonna break those bolts. So now we're down to the sensor. I've got a bolt here. We've actually got one right on the back of this that holds the whole wire to the knuckle. And then we should be good to get this thing out of here. For the sensor itself, you're gonna need a T5 Allen. Make sure you get it seated in there. Break it loose. We'll take this whole thing out of here now. There's our sensor. Now, sometimes garbage, you can see all the rust stuck to this thing, and there's some rust down in there on the tone wheel. Sometimes that will cause an issue. So you could just try cleaning this all up and putting it back together. The sensor's cheap enough, I'm probably just gonna replace it instead of putting it all back together to find out that that didn't fix it. Now we've got this bracket back here. It's an 8mm. Take it loose. Now we can just take our harness out of our clips, maybe. There we go. And there's our sensor out. So we got our new sensor. Let's go ahead and ohm this out to show you what a good one should look like. Just like before, we're just going to jump across the 2 pins. There you see 490. So on a 4-wheel drive, these should be somewhere between 300 and 600 is kind of normal. So the other side you saw was a little over 300. This one's up above 4. So we're gonna get this thing installed and get going. Now, a 2-wheel drive does have different ohm readings for the sensor, so just keep that in mind. Okay, got our sensor put in here. Our bolts in. I did clean this port up before I put it back together. Got our bolt that holds to the knuckle. Both our retainers are in. We just need to plug the sensor in and put everything back together. Okay, everything is back together. We just need to get this off the jack and jack stands. Come back and torque that wheel. Clear the codes, and we'll take this thing for a test drive. Now we're just gonna come in here, erase our codes. And we're good to go. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys next time.